Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have another great game to go over from chess literature. This game, the player of white is Adolf Anderson, the author of the Immortal Game. He's white in this game against Jean du Fresnay. This game is very famous in chess history, and he played one move in this game that it's one of the most mysterious moves ever played on a chessboard. It's one of the most unlikely moves that you could ever recommend or see. So we get to that point, I will ask you guys to guess what that move would be. This was played in Berlin, Germany in 1852. Adolf Anderson is white. He opened with e4. That was very popular, this opening. It's still very popular, even though we see a lot of d4, knight f3, c4s also. e4, e5. That was a standard way to play. Of course, we have a lot of semi-open or semi-closed positions. For example, with French, with Sicilian, with Alpine, with Pirc. But e4, e5 was played here, knight f3. So he did not play his king's gambit this time. Knight c6. So far, so good. Bishop c4. So do we have a name for this opening yet? It's too early to name it. Depends on what black does. If black plays bishop c5, you could say it's Italian game, but it could change to Giogo Piano, to Evans Gambit. And if black plays knight f6, it would be called two knights defense. So in this game, black played bishop c5. One of the ways that I highly recommend you improve your tactics is to play a lot of gambits. Gambits is full of tactics and calculations. That's why, for example, when Bobby Fischer went on a US tour in the 60s, he played a lot of Evans Gambit. He wants sharp tactical position. And Evans Gambit, after bishop c4, c5, is this move. It starts with this move. The premise behind all gambits is to sacrifice a pawn, and while your opponent is busy moving the same developed pieces over and over, you get your pieces out quickly. So there are other ways that black could play. For example, bishop b6 is playable. Bishop takes pawn is possible. And after c3, there was a game Kasparov Anand in the 80s. And at this point, Anand played bishop back to e7. That's also perfectly playable. In this game, black played bishop a5. Even today, this is one of the most popular options for black, bishop a5. And now white played d4. If you forget to play this gambit, remember white touches the b pawn, then c pawn, then d pawn. So just 3 pawn moves in a row. So black captured, and white castle. You see, white is quickly completing his development while black is moving the same pieces, bishops and e-pawns, over and over. And at this point, he's offering another pawn to black. Black could be 3 pawns up after pawn takes pawn. We don't have very many openings that somebody will sacrifice 3 pawns and, you know, get a fantastic attack. This is one of those. But in this game, of course, had black played this move, white would have played queen b3. Bobby Fischer was dozens of games on the white side of this, especially in simultaneous exhibitions that he did. So that was one option. Of course, if black does not take, and he makes a good developing move, for example, with d6 or bishop b6, or knight e7, which all those are perfectly playable. White will capture in the center, pawn takes pawn, and white has really effectively only sacrificed 1 pawn. And considering that he has this pawn due in the center, this is more than enough compensation for 1 pawn that is sacrificed. So this would have been a fantastic continuation. So black is trying to disrupt this pawn due in the center. And at this point, after white castle, black played d3. This line used to be considered one of the refutations of Evans' gambit, because white has an awkward pawn over here, taking the square c3 away from the knight, and he's not going to have double pawns in the center, or rather pawn do on d4, e4. So this game, you could say in a way, was the refutation of this whole idea, the way Anderson took advantage of it. It's white to play queen b3. This move is the hallmark of Evans' gambit. He's lining up queen and bishop along the a2 g8 diagonal against black's weakest spot on the entire board, f7. And how can black defend against bishop takes f7? Knight h6 obviously not playable. Bishop just removes it. So black has to defend it with the queen. Queen e7 and queen f6, both playable. But on queen e7, white could play bishop a3, d6, e5, and open up the game quickly. You notice that rook can come to e1 at the right time also. Queen f6 is more often played. And that's what black played in this game. And white played e5. Even though black is on this pawn twice against one defender, because of the potential for rook e1 at any time, the pawn is not takeable. So black played queen g6. I'm not saying this position is already winning for white. White has lost many positions from here, many games from this position. So it really depends on how they, both sides conduct the game from this point on. White to play rook e1. That's a nice developing move. Always a good idea to put your rooks in front of your opponent's king and queen file. Even though it seems that for the moment there's nothing white can do with his rook e1. But you will see in a few moves how powerful this rook on e1 is. Black to play, what should he do? A developing move, getting ready to castle. Makes perfect sense, right? Knight g7. If you guys play Bughouse, you really appreciate the importance of open files and diagonals. And I highly recommend it. It's great for your chess. So bishop a3, controlling another fantastic diagonal, a3, f8. Again, for the moment, there's nothing to be captured, but he's building. And usually it's early mid game that black really feels the pressure. And there are almost no good moves for black. So for the moment, white is just optimizing his piece positions until the what we call destruction phase comes in. Is black to play? Is castling a good option for black at this point? Right, but it seems to be safe. What can white do against it? Black could have castled and probably should have. But he decided to become a little bit adventurous. Uh-oh, another pawn sacrifice at b5, just like the last game. So besides white being Adolf Anderson in both of these games, this is probably the only other common feature of these two games, that black played b5. What's the point of black playing b5 now? He's trying to force white to capture it with either queen or bishop, and thereby giving up this battery that he has. Definition of battery is queen and a bishop on the same diagonal with the lower value piece in the front, or queen and rook on the same file. It's called battery, just like in military. So black played b5, white captured with a queen, and black played rook b8. So black figured by sacrificing a pawn, he put the rook on a good file, and he alleviated his lack of development a little bit. White to play, queen a4 is the best square to retreat. So he got the queen and bishop off the battery power that they had earlier. So that's the only thing that black achieved. Okay, there are some puzzles, and this position has happened hundreds of times, if not thousands. For example, a natural move like castling is a mistake. Losing move. What's wrong with castling by black at this point? Excellent. This black knight, if black castles, this black knight on c6 would be overloaded. It's guarding this knight against bishop capture, and it's guarding the bishop against queen capture. So had black castled in this game, and many people have, white will play bishop takes knight. That's a whole piece. Black can resign. Or he can play on and play Titanic chess. Eventually it will sink. So black was aware of this situation in this game. So black saved the bishop. So black was a very good player. He's played fairly well so far. And now he's getting ready to castle. So is there a killer continuation by white, or he should just continue with his slow development? Unless you have a quick way to win, put your opponent away, you just build your position. Keep on building. So one of the principles of metagame, and this is a metagame position now, early metagame. We have early metagame, middle metagame, and late metagame. Is piece optimization. Very important principle called worst piece first. Find out which one of your pieces is least active and move that first.
Knight to d2.
Excellent. Knight bd2. Very good. When you have two pieces going the same square, I'm sure that's what you meant. Knight bd2. White is building his position for now.
And he's got the double rooks like this.
His rooks are connected now, right? That's what white played. Black to play. Is castling a playable move for black?
Yes.
Yes. And he should have castled. Instead, black played bishop b7. Black figured his king is fairly safe for now, and he's put the bishops on those two diagonals hitting the white king side. White to play. How can he optimize his position even more? You could say the rook on a1 is undeveloped. So bring it to the b file, c file, d file, and that's okay move. There's nothing wrong with this. But the queen rook often doesn't have a major role in many of the combinations. But he can improve the position of one of his pieces greatly by playing
Rook to e4.
rook to e4. What's the idea behind that?
You can have the whole fourth row available.
And double
you
rooks?
Can take it.
Or double rooks maybe?
And you
Okay.
can take it because if you would take with the queen, the bishop could do check.
But obviously black cannot take, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Before you optimize your major pieces, often you want to optimize your minor pieces.
What
And
about the knight to e4?
knight e4, that's the move. And with the combination of knight e4,
Right. You threaten
a pawn on
check.
e5, and a rook on e1, there are some things brewing.
You're threatening checks and stuff, and also, if not, you can just take d3 next if all else fails.
Exactly,
you know?
right.
So,
Knight e4. Black to play, and for the life of me, I just could not understand this next black move at all. So it's definitely a lemon. Black played queen f5. What could possibly be the point of this move? Is it trying to,
Take the pawn on e5? Is that what he wants?
maybe it's trying to win the e5 pawn. Knight takes, and if knight takes, bishop takes this knight. That could be one idea. But white came up with a beautiful refutation of queen f5. Any ideas?
knight to d6.
Knight d6.
Knight to d6 is perfectly good move. And after pawn takes,
How about bishop takes f7?
and after king takes,
Knight to g5 check. The one on e, because that opens up the rook.
and if he takes with the queen,
Isn't the other knight guarding it?
bishop f7, queen f7, and then
Oh, I see.
you can throw in knight f6, d6 check, pawn takes, and black could castle. So you sack a piece, you win a piece. There's no devastating blow here. Pardon me?
You lost the attacking pieces, so you're weak.
Right. There's a simple refutation of queen f5.
Bishop takes d4.
Simple and good. Bishop takes d3. With a deadly threat,
Yes.
tactical theme called
Royal. No.
Discovery.
discovered attack on the queen by the bishop. So obviously black, even castling doesn't help now. Black is already at a point of no return. He cannot even castle. He could have earlier instead of bishop b7, for example, but now he doesn't have that option either. So black got off the dangerous diagonal, queen h5. So it seems that white cannot improve this position even more. Middle game usually has 4 stages. Restrain. Give your opponent cramped position. You see all of black's pieces except the queen are in the first 3 rows. So black has terribly cramped position. Next stage of the middle game is creating weaknesses. f6 square is weak, d6 square is weak, this diagonal is weak in white's control, and all the white pieces except the a1 rook are pretty much at their optimized position.
Knight f6 check.
The third stage of the middle game is breakthrough, or occupying those weak squares. And this starts along with the 4th stage of the middle game, which is destruction, with this next move.
Yeah, knight f6 check.
Okay, any difference between knight f6 check and knight d6 check, or doesn't matter?
Well, he's forced to take because the queen's up there.
Right. The good thing about knight f6 check is that black must take the knight. Otherwise, this would be a royal fork, and he loses the queen, right? So this is more forceful, and you always want to go with the more forceful moves. So black's play pawn takes, and white play pawn takes.
And so.
It's black to play now, and black is not thinking of defense, which is why this game is such a masterpiece. Black really played as dangerously and as powerfully as white. Black played rook g8. And with this move, it's white to play, but if we were blacks, what was black threatening to do next?
Takes knight.
Queen takes knight, queen takes pawn next, queen takes mate. So many different tactics. This is the moment that Adolf Anderson, this whole game is famous because of the white's next move. This move is so deep, so unlikely to find, that even masters have spent, some teachers, they give this position and they say white to play, forced win, find the continuation. And almost everybody misses it. So this would be a good test for you guys. Prove all of those guys wrong and say we are different. White to play, and this is one of the most mysterious moves. Of course, when you see the whole combination, it makes perfect sense. But you see what black's threat is.
Bishop takes e7.
Yeah, bishop. Yeah.
These are all good moves. Don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with it.
Knight d4.
Queen takes c6.
Knight d4, and black would be happy to trade that with bishop takes. Queen c6, he could take with the bishop. Or even better, rook takes check, and if king takes, then bishop takes c6, that means this knight cannot move anywhere next either. One of the most mysterious and deep moves. If you want to appreciate a deep move in chess, this is it. White has optimized pretty much all his pieces. He is ready to deliver the destruction, the final blow. But he's just a little bit short. And black's threats are obvious. Has anybody seen this game before?
I've seen it.
You don't remember the move? Okay, you qualify to answer then. You remember the move? No? Okay, good. The funny thing is, even after you see the move, you wonder, what does this possibly do? It seems that it doesn't do anything. But it's a very deep move. It sets up a beautiful combination. This is one of the most beautiful combinations you've ever seen on the chessboard.
Rook D flat,
That's-
Rook D1, Rook on A to D1.
You found that move, Mitch?
Well, here's how I'm looking at it. Once that move goes there, if queen takes knight, bishop to E4, covering the knight and the checkmate square, and then the rook is hitting D7, and you can take that knight because the other knight's pinned, because you'll mate with the queen at D7. I mean,
Okay.
It's a real deep kind of 8 ply. It's an 8
He
ply.
found the move, but for wrong reasons.
Right.
It is Rook A D1. See what I mean? Despite all the threats that black has, including queen takes here, white played Rook A D1. What does this possibly do?
Ah, I got it. He were to take the knight with the rook.
If black plays queen takes knight,
Yeah, then he
I would
takes
wait, continue.
the knight with the rook, says chess,
okay,
and then he has to take with the other knight, and he mates with the queen.
sacrifice queen. Very good. That is the point of Rook A D1.
Why not just move the king to D8 then?
Because the queen would then mate.
Right. This is what black played in the game.
Right. Okay.
Queen takes knight. So rook takes E7.
Check.
In the game, black didn't see anything wrong with taking the rook with the knight. So he played knight takes rook. And now you see the real point of rook on D1,
Exactly.
sacrificing the queen. Wow, you sacrifice your queen and end up winning. That's the ultimate thing you can do on a chess game.
He has to take the queen.
He has, well, if he doesn't take the queen, king F8,
Well, then he's mate.
queen takes or bishop takes mate. And if he takes the queen,
Discover, double check.
check where? There are two different double discover checks. One works, one doesn't.
So bishop to B5, double check.
How many of you think it's bishop B5?
No, he'll escape at E6. It's got to go the other way.
How many of you think it's bishop F5?
No, yeah, it's got to be F5.
That's right.
F5.
Bishop D5 does not checkmate because king gets out. And he could take this pawn next. Bishop F5 is the move because no matter what black does, it's mating 2 or 3. I mean, mating 1 and 2 from here after black moves.
Let's say he goes to C6.
Okay, if he goes to C6, white has mating 1.
Bishop to
D7.
D7.
Bishop D7, very good. And if he goes to,
And that's it.
the beauty of double discover check, and it has a nickname by the way, the bombardier of the chessboard. The king must move. So king C6 fails to bishop D7, king E8, which is what black played, fails to
Bishop to
D7.
D7.
bishop D7 check,
And then the bishop takes.
and after king F8,
Bishop takes.
bishop takes E7. Wow.
Beautiful.
Now you see the point of rook A D1. And black didn't see anything wrong with it. Otherwise, he would have probably defended more accurately. Black did not see anything wrong with rook a d1. He thought he could get away with it. Okay, very good. So now takes us to the point of on rook e7 check. What if black does not take the rook with the knight?
Well,
How would the combination work now?
rook takes d7.
King d8.
King d8, rook takes d7.
Well, if king d8, how does white continue? Now you notice every white move must be with check
Rook takes
because
d7.
things are very critical here.
d7.
Rook d7, check. And if king takes,
Then
Double
they-
discovery with the
Same.
same thing.
same combination except that there's no pawn, well, bishop f5 check wins,
So king c.
mate next. And if king c8, how does white win? This didn't happen in the game, but obviously white must have taken it into consideration. How does white win from here?
It's gonna keep checking, right? The rook takes c7. It's gonna take c7.
Rook c7, let's say
Bishop takes.
bishop takes, and then where's your mate?
Yeah.
There is no mate, right? But on rook c7, what if king takes c7? Is there a win?
No, not even.
There's no mate again. So rook c7 cannot be the move. But you have to make a forcing move. Things are very critical around here. But there is a force win for white. How would white win had black continued this line?
Rook d8.
Rook d8. Rook d8 works if black takes with the rook, and then you capture the bishop, the queen. Yeah,
Yeah, but if it takes with the knight, queen d7.
very good. Same combination again.
Right.
Yeah.
The key move is rook d8. Black has 3 ways of capturing it, and all 3 leads to checkmate. Wow. What kind of tactical theme is this? The hardest tactics in chess, which is, of all the major tactical themes, which one is the hardest one to see and recognize? Decoy.
Decoy.
What's the nickname for decoy?
Come here.
Come here. You want to drive a piece to a poisonous, fatal square. If the king takes the rook, how does white win?
Bishop to e5, double check.
Bishop
Oh, just
f5.
check, discover check, and take the queen.
Bishop f5 is check.
Bishop f5 to cover the c8 square. Now black has a choice of queen takes here, but at this point, it would lose also. It should lose for black. If queen takes, he can block on d4, takes it, and white should win the game. But what if on this
Blocks
move,
with the knight? Oh no, that's mate right away.
and if black played king e8, how does white win?
Bishop checks on d7. King has to go to d8, and then bishop takes discovery check the knight and takes the queen.
Right, that wins the queen. So that's if black takes with the king. If black takes with the rook, how does white win? There's no mate, but white wins slowly. By rook moving away from the g file, white will capture the queen now. And white comes ahead in material. He sacrificed a knight and a rook, and he wins the queen. The position is winning. And if black takes with the knight, this is the third way of capturing at d8. Same tactics with queen sacrifice. Queen d7 check. You see how these tactics would not have worked without a rook on d1? But at the time, with so many pieces still on the way, That was a very, very hard move to
How
find.
does this one win? I didn't understand how this one would win.
This one, queen sacrifice? Well, black must take, right?
Yeah.
So after black takes, double discovered check with bishop f5. In the case of double check, king must move. And black has two options, king e8 or c6. Like before, king c6
Mate.
gets mated with bishop d7. You see how beautiful this is? The power of the killer bees. And if king e8,
Mate.
mate on the move also
Same thing.
with bishop d7. This game of Adolf Anderson is famous as the Evergreen game. It never gets old, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Every time I go over this game, I feel like I want to play Gambits again. So we'll take a break. Thanks, guys, and hope you enjoyed it.